General Radahn, the Scourge of the Stars, versus King Morgott, the last of all kings. A battle between two of the strongest demigods, for who can truly take the title of the second strongest of all. I will be going over the reasons as to why I believe Morgott takes that title, and will address the arguments and reasoning for Radahn as well. General Radahn is often referred to as the strongest demigod, but how valid are these statements? Well, two of these statements come from Radahn, one of Radahn's closest allies and the host of the Radahn Festival. I believe it's easy enough to consider these mere bias, especially considering Radahn would know of Radahn's loss to Malenia. Radahn is only referred to as the mightiest hero among the demigods in the Starscourge heirloom, which can't really apply to Morgott, seeing as Morgott himself was an omen and wouldn't be considered a hero, paired with the fact he was feared among the lands between. The final statement comes from Radahn in promotional material, which I do not believe works on its own, considering it is for one, a knowledge claim, and for two, they are simply the strongest to remain. But to remain in what? It very clearly isn't meant to be all-encompassing, seeing as characters like Malekith, Radahn, and the Elden Beast are still around. I believe a far more likely interpretation of this statement is the strongest to remain in direct battle, which would not apply to Morgott. People often like to use the Battle of Aeonia as a way of saying Radahn is equal to, or even superior to, Malenia, but this battle is massively misinterpreted in that regard. The battle is stated as a stalemate only until she blooms, in which she won as she effectively ended the war. Keep in mind, though, that this is a fatigued Malenia that is fighting this seemingly full-power Radahn, as stated in the 286th volume of CG World. So this fatigued Malenia was stalemating a 100% Radahn, and still not only stalemated him, but won through the bloom, making this a definitive win on Malenia's end. Another popular argument as to why Radahn is so strong is his feat of holding all the stars in the sky, but that is not the only interpretation, nor the most likely interpretation of this feat we are told of. Within the context of the verse, it appears to be significantly more plausible that what Radahn is doing was simply binding the stars as a sort of one-time thing, and wasn't actively holding the stars constantly himself. This should be evidenced due to characters like Morgott and the Fingers doing similar things by placing barriers over the Forsaken Depths and Leyndell, respectively. I believe the narrative supports this interpretation more as well, due to the nature of his conquest in the first place. It's presented as a war that he previously partook in during his youth, which if it was a previous battle and one he is not partaking in at the current time, then his active role in his battle against the stars is over at this point. Moving on to the other contender, Morgott. First of all, Morgott, not Morgott, at the Battle of the Plateau, beat Radahn in battle. This Radahn already being renowned as the mightiest demigod. You may be asking after that last line why this would be Morgott and not Morgott. I have two reasons for this. Reason number one, this battle takes place at, as the name suggests, a plateau, which is contradictory to where Morgott actively fights, as he is stated to remain at the foot of the Erd Tree. This is, however, somewhere within the range of where he would go under the alias of Morgott. My second reasoning behind this line of thinking is due to the state of the weapon he uses. Morgott, as we see him at the Erd Tree, breaks the blade he wields to reveal a sharper inside at the start of the fight, kind of like unsheathing it, while his other, weaker alias, Morgott, keeps the blade sheathed. But while this reasoning wouldn't generally fall through, it does in the context of Morgott's character. Morgott very clearly sees the Tarnished as lower beings, and those he does not respect or think highly of, while with Radahn, on the other hand, he shows a sign of respect towards, while speaking his name in the beginning cutscene. This shows that while fighting a Tarnished with currently no renown or noteworthy feats, he is willing to brandish his true blade, but against a foe he respects, such as Radahn, he would not. This points towards it being Morgott that Radahn actually faces, as Morgott does not unsheath the blade, likely as it is essentially a shadow clone with no capability of such. The common argument against that claim would be that Radahn has gotten stronger by the time of his prime during the Battle of Aeonia, but that is baseless and can just be shaved off due to Hitchin's razor. Another point on why I believe Morgott and even Morgott to be stronger than Radahn is the fact that he is stated to be a horror to all those that have ambitions for the Erd Tree or Lordship. The reason this would apply to Radahn specifically is due to Radahn by the Battle of the Plateau, or if you believe the Battle of the Plateau to be a separate occasion even, specifically, has ambition for the Erd Tree due to going there himself to claim a great rune from the Shattered Elden Ring. Another line of reasoning as to why Radahn was weaker than Morgott at the Battle of the Plateau is due to the description of the second defense of Leyndell, which states that the Erd Tree remains completely unshaken, implying it was never in really any danger to begin with. With the Battle of the Plateau extremely likely taking place before the second defense of Leyndell, or at the absolute latest during the second defense of Leyndell, it implies that the Erd Tree wasn't ever in danger beforehand as well, meaning Radahn never actually had a chance of putting the Erd Tree or that area in danger, which with the information we are given, is more probably due to Morgott than it would be to anyone or anything else. My last argument is one I'm not confident of the actual scaling of in a debate setting, but will address here nonetheless. Morgott is able to, without pledging allegiance to her as Mohg did, mind you, rip into the Formless Mother to get the Blood Flame. Narratively, this should scale extremely high, but due to the nature of debating and skepticism, I don't suggest using this argument without being able to secure the Formless Mother and other Outer Gods scaling first. After analyzing both characters' feats and statements, as well as from a narrative perspective, I believe Morgott very clearly wins, based on the facts we are shown. The Discord server is again in the comments for anyone who wishes to discuss the matter in a debating fashion. Peace out.